Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. I am Miss Aksa Khalid from Nurture International School, and today we are going to start our first lesson for the month of June via online support system. Today's lesson is Robinson Crusoe, which is considered as a true life story of a Scottish person, Alexander Selkirk, who went against his parents' wishes to be a sailor instead of becoming a learned man. Okay, so this is a whole book, a whole novel, and this lesson number 3 is basically a small extract from that novel. The story is written by the author Daniel Defoe. Here is the brief introduction of the author Daniel Defoe. He was born in 1660 and was died in 1731. By occupation, he was a writer, journalist, and a merchant. He not only wrote novels but also wrote poems. But he is most famous for his novel Robinson Crusoe. Now let's look at the summary or crust of this lesson. It's a story of a man named Robinson Crusoe who was born in 1632 in the city of York, England. The novel's protagonist and narrator, Crusoe begins the novel as a young middle-class man in York in search of a career. A novel's protagonist is basically the hero of any story or the novel, and narrator, as Crusoe himself is the narrator of this story because he is telling his life. Okay, so he himself is the narrator of this story. Robinson Crusoe's parents wanted him to become a lawyer, but Crusoe is determined to become a sailor. So he leaves his home without his parents' blessings and works hard to become a sailor. So his parents always wanted him to be a good man, a good learned man, but on the other hand, uh, he was in search of a good career, and to him his career was to become a good sailor. Okay, so he defied his parents' wishes, and he went against their wishes and went to uh, a sea. And over there he met with so many unfortunate incidents. One day he goes on an expedition. On the journey, the ship gets wrecked, and Crusoe becomes the sole one who survives. He makes it to an island that was deserted. So he was on an expedition while his ship got wrecked. They met with a serious disaster, and all the sailors on his ship they perished or they died. The one who survived on that shipwreck was Crusoe, and soon he realized that he is the sole survivor of this shipwreck. Crusoe soon learns he is the sole survivor of the expedition and seeks shelter and food for himself. He returns to the wreck's remains 12 times to salvage guns, powder, food, and other items. On shore, he finds goats he can graze for meat and builds himself a shelter. So after realizing that he is the only one who survived, and he is all alone on this shore, what did he do? He actually had to make a living for himself. Okay, so um, he went back to the disaster place, or the shipwrecked, where their shipwrecked. He collected all the wreckages to make his living. Okay, so these are the things that he collected from that wreckage, and he made himself a shelter first, and then he found some goats and all the things that that is needed for a better living. Okay, so instead of complaining about his fate, okay, this is what he actually did. He did not complain about his fate, but rather he looked at the situation and does what is needed to make the situation better. So this is basically the lesson or the theme or the central idea of this lesson, that instead of complaining over our fate, we should do what is needed for a living. Now students, what you need to do, you need to go through the lesson again, and there are all the difficult words with their meanings are given in your book. You need to read it thoroughly for a better understanding. Okay. Okay students, if you read the story on your own, then you will be able to answer the questions. Okay, so do give it a read, and then try to answer on your own. Answers are given on the next slides, but it's better you read the story by yourself and try to answer. Okay, and if you find anything difficult, then you can go to the answer sheet. Now these are the slides on which answers are given. Question number 1 is, who was Daniel Defoe? Daniel Defoe was a famous writer, merchant, journalist, and spy, as well as a novelist and poet. He was born in 1660. Defoe worked at a number of trades before starting to write at the age of 40. What happened about 2 weeks after Robinson Crusoe started his voyage? He clambered into a boat with 3 others and rowed towards the shore. A gigantic wave sank the boat, and he was the only one who managed to swim ashore. What did Robinson Crusoe take from the ship? In your opinion, which items would have proved most useful? Robinson Crusoe swam back to the ship to get some things. He took bread, rice, cheese, tools, wood, rope, nails, sails and clothes, guns and ammunition, and sugar and flour. How did Robinson Crusoe discover he lived on an island? Robinson Crusoe discovered that he was on an island when he walked up a little hill and looked around. From there, he could see that he was on an island. What are some of the tasks Robinson Crusoe did on the island? Some tasks that Robinson Crusoe did on the island were building a house with a strong stockade round it, exploring, making a boat, learning to make pots, growing corn, rice and wheat, and making bread. What are some of the things he found on the island? Some things he found on the island were wild grapes and limes, wild animals and goats, water and clay. What do you think happened to the others in the boat? Perhaps some escaped somehow, others might have drowned. Now from exercise, it's part B. Question is, complete the following in your own words. Each sentence should not be about Robinson Crusoe on the island, but about something quite different. So here I have some example sentences for you people, but you try to make your own sentences. Okay, this is just for an example. Every day I brought items to take on my journey. One day I set out to explore the streets of the old city. I collected a quantity of berries from the garden. I picked up a strong walking stick that my father had once used. I grew a number of crops because the ground was so fertile and there was a good supply of water. Suddenly I saw the ship turn on its side and sink. Now students, as you have read the story and now you're able to make a story of your own. Okay, so in order to make a story, what you people need to do is, you need to feel, you need to think, you need to see, you need to wonder, you need to notice. Okay, and collect some points in your mind and make a story about whose footprint was in there on the sand. As you see, Robinson Crusoe was all alone on that sand, and there was no one other than him. Okay, but suddenly, what happened? He saw some footprints on the sand. Now you need to think about that, and you need to make a story about who that person might have been. Okay, write a few sentences about what you think happened. Did Robinson Crusoe meet another man? Who he was, and how did he get on the island? Okay, now just think about it and make a small story about that. Whatever comes in your mind, just write it down. Okay, okay, students, good luck.